Just a quick question. How many of you have used Deighton apps in the past? Because obviously it's a relatively new thing, so quite a few people. Yeah, so some of you will be really familiar with the type of personal data that's actually processed by dating apps. But some of you that have used them will be absolutely surprised about the other data you don't want, that you sometimes get. So, Teodora, can you just give us an overview of the type of personal data that you collect?
Yes, absolutely. And hopefully nobody's surprised because we do a great job on transparency so that everybody knows what data is being collected. But just to give you an overview for those who haven't used the app, or, and just by all means do use it if it's a fantastic app. I must say also Bumble is a Bumble group, so we do have a few different apps, and so we're showcasing Bumble Date. We have an app that is called BFF, so it's for friends, and also a very French-based app called Fruits, which is this game with fruits.
And I'll just say the data. I wasn't talking about the data that you have. It's the data that when you match with somebody, which we will talk about later, that you don't expect to necessarily come back as part of the conversation.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And so then we also have, like, if you continue the journey within dating, then friends, and then we recently acquired Official, which is an app that once you are official, then you can use to kind of help you organize your date, keep track on what you do with your partner. Otherwise, this is the sign up flow. I won't go through step by step, but just for you to get an idea. So we would go through obviously collecting information that is about registration information. It's a very phone-based one, at least Bumble, but Do is operates differently. So as a privacy professional, you have to have in mind like all the different registration flows. What does it mean, one-time passcode? How can you do it across different apps, depending on what the registration is and how it's happening? Obviously, security and verification, incredibly important. On the other side as well, of like how we allow people to get to the data. Then photos, right? We do need photos, and those are important. You actually have to include a photo of your face. And you can import photos, you add your birthday. We'll talk a little bit about age verification and the efforts that we're doing around age assurance and age verification a little bit further down the line, but it's yet another challenge that we have to do. Obviously, then we get into gender. And we have also included, non-binary gender, and so what information can we infer from the different information that we're asking, because then we ask for more information if the user would like to share. And so you would choose the mode that you want to use, as well as who you would like to date. Now, we're not explicitly saying what is your sexual orientation, however, here we are, basically knowing your sexual orientation depending on the choice that you have put. What are you hoping to find is like the type of dating you would like. There's this ethnicity data that we do collect if, it is not anything compulsory, and it's actually only, this is active only in certain countries, but this is, again, yet another type of data. We have interests, so again, different type of interests within that you can choose. We have height, exercise, zodiac sign. Oh yeah, we have zodiac as well. I forgot our zodiac for those. I'm Sagittarius, just if education, so drinking, getting into, what can you infer? Can you infer certain health data? Smoking, having pets, family plans. Again, you can skip through all this, but it's your choice as a user to go through it. But yeah, then obviously then we get into religious and political affiliation that we can all, again, skippable, but we would be collecting it if the user is choosing to use them. And then it's our pledge, because it's our, how Nike has just do it, we have kind connections, because we are saving the internet. Quite literally, this is what we want to do. It sounds like a joke, but it's not. So you can add a prompt. You can. There's also a box where you can add a lot of things. So again, there is an opportunity to add quite a lot of things that we might not know what there is, because this is the box where you can put literally anything, and then it's a bit of an explanation how it works. And here it is, your profile, and then you start swiping, and that is the end of the flow.
Amazing. So I'm Aquarius, so I think we're really compatible,
great,
actually.
yes.
Yeah, we are. That was always interesting. So there's a lot of personal information that goes in there, and I saw some of the slides that says that some of it's optional, so you don't have to provide that all. So can you give us some examples of the challenges that you face when dealing with this type of data? Because obviously there's a lot of information that's in there.
The first thing that comes to mind when it comes to a challenge, and today it's Jenai. It's just we as any other tech company really nowadays, all that we can, or our data science teams that they're all the hype is about GenAI and what we can do about it. So it's also almost in a way forced that, if you don't start using ChatGPT in some way, then, you're behind the curve. So that's, a challenge in of itself, but I know that we will probably be covering that topic a bit later on, so we'll leave that for later. Privacy by design, another one that I would say, challenge, opportunity, whatever we want to see it as, but obviously me as, the head of privacy and setting the what we need to do when it comes to privacy in the company. It's it's the North Star that we want to progress towards to. It is interesting how we're positioning it actually as privacy by design, and we also talk about safety by design. Now it's my job to explain that safety by design is something we aspire by, and privacy by design is actually a legal requirement, so they have to take me more seriously maybe. But that is one that I do call say it's a challenge, because there's always yet another process or another feature or a new joiner or restructure of the organization that you have to be aware of, and at every single point, so that you can actually embed the privacy by design and people know what it is and aware and know how to do it. Because even when you have teams that you're working with on a daily basis, like the data science teams, sometimes they might just forget because, well, it was really almost the same data. And you're like, yes, but, it's a different purpose. And so even well-intentioned teams within the company would have to be, gotten into the privacy by design rightful path. And the other one, I would say, we're a global business, and there's so many laws. US is like my biggest headache right now. There was this meme of you have headache, migraine, and then US privacy laws. So that's the level of how it works for me. And it's just, there's so much happening in the US. We're lucky in a way, and our journey is easier, a journey to US compliance, just because we apply, we adhere to the global standards of GDPR globally, EU and UK, and so it makes it easier. So all that we have to do is just compare every new US state law to what we're already doing and how it differentiates, and this is already quite a lot. So that's definitely something to take into account.
So I was going to say, we've worked with you for quite a few years, and Alison's been quite a time. Would you agree with Teodora on those challenges, so from your point of view?
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add is just that as an external DPO, the real challenge is finding out what on earth is going on, which is where having someone like Teodora, who is very much embedded in the business and gets out there and makes sure everybody knows about privacy and that they know to come and talk to the privacy team, is just we could not do our job without that presence in the business, enabling the sucking out of information of what's happening. And I think the other challenge we've definitely found, and this isn't just Bumble, this is all clients that we work with, is making sure you're talking the same language. So I think engineers and tech people assume you know what they're talking about when they're talking about a process, it's all hashed, it's fine. And then you ask a few questions and then you're like, actually it's all entirely identifiable. It's all still personal data, it's not fine. And so making sure you ask the really stupid questions to really understand what the tech people are talking about from a really basic sort of position, I would say is a top tip. And also don't assume that they know what you're talking about, because it goes the other way as well. You're saying, is there any personal data? Assuming they know what personal data is, but their idea of what personal data is might be very different to what legally we're talking about. So just making sure you've got common language and that everybody, you're constantly training and retraining everybody, because there's change in the business, different people come and go. You need to it's constant, that kind of communication to make sure you know what's happening.
Great. So should we talk about AI? I feel like if we don't mention AI, everyone will think that we don't know what we're doing. So let's talk about some AI. So obviously you're a massive tech company and global. So it'd be really good to get into some real practical details now. So could you give us some examples about how you're using AI and how the business is using AI and how you've kind of dealt with the privacy challenges from that perspective?
Absolutely. I mean, quite of my job recently has been to explain, even within non-tech people, of like, actually we've been using AI for quite a while now. This is not a new thing. And also the differentiation between, actually, this is just an algorithm, it's not AI. And, there's a lot of miscommunication even within a tech business that you wouldn't think that that's the case. Also, I wouldn't think that I was the expert, but there you are. I've been nominated as, and it's not, it comes as AI is at core of what tech is, and so if you don't use it, you just fall behind your competitors. And the par excellence example that I can give is, our matching algorithm and how you have to, take all the information that the user has given you, and how you have an algorithm that if you just use it as an algorithm, not as artificial intelligence or as a machine learning model, then what happens is that you would have like a very basic match, you are interested in women and you're interested in men, and here we are, we match you up. And so AI allows you to, go deeper and find more of those deeper connections that lead to, lots of love, in our case. So, so that's, the example, that, comes to mind because it's at the core as well of our business. And because it's at the core, then, governance is so important, and governance. And so the way that we've approached it, and I think it's quite of a good way to go down the path of privacy does own AI governance, in the sense of it's kind of the glue that connects all the different stakeholders together. But on the other hand, it's not owning that it's the only stakeholder, because there's so many different aspects to take in mind. So what we're doing is we have an AI committee that is formed by quite senior stakeholders, and it's more of a strategic place where we discuss the ethical challenges, and the goal of the committee is to commit to the advancement of responsible AI. And it's a very grand term, but actually this is really what we're doing. And then, so for example, who are the stakeholders that would sit on that committee would be obviously our data, so the head of data science, our CTO, somebody from legal maybe, but for now we've kept legal as in privacy. You would need a public policy team, and et cetera. So I think data science obviously being the crucial part, not only because they're building it, but also they have all the insight into how do you make sure that it's that ethical progress that we're talking about, is not just the fluff that we as senior stakeholders sit down and come up with these great ideas, and then at the end there's no flow down. So we have these principles. It's like a data ethics framework that the data science team has to apply in order to make sure that our output is not biased, for example. And it's a constant tweaking exercise, because obviously now if we do start using Jenai within our algorithm, within our machine algorithm, all the ethical guidelines, we do need to tweak them as well in order to enhance them so that they fit the new purpose and the new environment. So I think it's a constant, balancing act on finding it. And I don't think we'll ever get to the point of, that is until, 50 years from now, when AI would, super intelligence would just, humanity will be extinct. Then we'll stop adapting. Until then, I think there's a lot to do when it comes to what is AI governance and how to approach it.
We'll probably be dating robots by then anyway. So it won't really matter. It won't need an app. It'll be fine. So Alison, there's clearly like a lot that goes on from a governance point of view. Can you just talk a little bit more about practical ways of bringing that to life? Like, what does that governance look like?
Yeah, I would say before I go into some of the details, one of the things that has been great about all the interest in ChatGPT and everything is that when we set up the AI committee years ago now, and we set out the AI principles years ago, And we've been trying to drum it home to everybody that this is the way to do it. And now everybody gets it and is like interested in going to the AI committee and making sure the principles are followed. So that's been a very positive thing over the last 12 months.
The principles document is like on fire. I'm getting all these requests to share it. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And that actually came out, putting that structure in place, came out of the ICO's initial AI guidance that came out quite some years ago. So it's interesting to see that that's finally actually sort of coming to fruition. But the way that it then works in practice, so there's the kind of structural, strategic element at that AI committee level, but then actually operationally, it just comes down to the normal tools you always use for privacy. So it's looking at, well, does it trigger a DPIA? Are we making sure we've got a lawful basis? Do people know about what we're doing? You know, it's all the basic questions. And it's quite interesting that the UK has decided for the moment not to go into any additional regulation, because we've certainly finding that those existing tools are working for making sure that we're thinking about all the right privacy compliance things. So that's what happens, is that there's a privacy assessment process that kicks in if there's any personal data being used in a new project, whether that's AI or otherwise. Very factual questions go to the business through an online tool. That gets filtered through to the privacy team. They do a kind of initial compliance check, so they'll be doing checking all the legal things are being done correctly. And we'll also do that kind of risk assessment element. Say, right, does it need a full DPIA, or are we happy that we'll do a lighter touch risk assessment? And then that's where they will pull us in as the external DPO where necessary to give advice on the higher risk bits and pieces. But that's no different to all the other projects that have got personal data. It's just applying it to this particular area.